Hey everyone, welcome to Passive Play. So we have made it. We're at Riches Season 1, Episode 6, titled Forgive Me, Maybe, Forget Never. I know, right? Forgive or Forget. You remember that TV show? That's what it seems to be a little bit. Again, it's currently streaming on Prime Video. So we ended with Nina basically picking up Andre from the jail, I guess dropping the charges, giving him a ride to her condo, and she basically lets Andre know that all the evidence points to him too clearly. Like, it's clearly you. There's no one else that it points to. And she believes that it's actually Gideon is the one who's been stealing the money, and he had already set up for Andre to be the fall guy, creating the account in his name. And again, initially, Gideon was the original CFO. Claudia set up something to basically screw him over to get him ousted as that CFO, and then again to put Andre in there as their kind of eyes and ears of the company. So, I mean, Gideon does have motive. We also do find out that there was, something happened between Gideon and Stephen at one point. Gideon had lost his son. The son had died, and they kind of had some falling out. And basically, Stephen had let Gideon go. But it seems like Claudia had something to do with that. So did Gideon just feel a certain kind of way because Stephen followed through with, firing him? But it seems like Stephen still trusted Gideon enough to make sure that his will and things would get kind of followed through because Gideon was the one who was reading the will and all that. So I just thought that was a little bit interesting. It was like he maybe didn't trust him with the company anymore for whatever reason, and maybe it was, but I'm not sure. They didn't necessarily explain that part really well because, like, how long had Gideon been fired? Was it 6 months ago prior to his death, or had it been like how long had Andre been there? That's the thing too. They never explained that. But either way, um, Nina's basically like, Andre, help us to help you to build a case against Gideon to prove he's the one stealing money. Right now, it looks like I believe you're the one who's guilty, so he's not going to suspect it. We need to find proof before he has chance to before Gideon gets a chance to cover his tracks. And we also see in this that Simon ends up letting Nina know that he will give his shares to her. He says, his life is in New York with his partner, Ido, and that Nina really wants to do this and be there in London and and whatnot. So then we end up going back to Claudia's house because Wanda has found someone to open a safe. She's there with Alicia and Gus, and basically they get the safe open and they find Stephen's life insurance policy, which is worth £55 million, and the beneficiaries are Claudia, Wanda, Alicia, and Gus, which is 13,400,000 million dollars, pounds for each of them. I know Claudia will be happy because she get more money, even though I know she love her kids though, right? I feel like she love money as much as right? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Oh wait, actually, I'm doing war. You know what? I'm not even gonna unedit this. I was thinking, but money, 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 money. That's what I meant to say, but whatever war popped in my head. All right, I'm not deleting this, so this is gonna stay in here. But anyway, um, and so basically, they're happy. They end up letting Gideon know that they found that they end up found this life assurance policy, and basically, how do they get the money, for it. And as they're kind of all as they're leaving the room, Alicia goes, looks in the safe, and she finds some kind of letter document taped to the top of it on the inside. And she basically finds a letter saying that Stephen was stated that he could not legally adopt Wanda because she is no longer a minor. In the state, I guess, or she's no longer considered a minor in London, or she I guess maybe she was older than 18, and she basically finds the letter and she ends up putting it in her bag and kind of leaving, not saying anything to Wanda. Now, later in this episode, Alicia, she ends up going to Nina's flat because Nina's been out of the office, trying to work with Andre and Simon to see if they can find proof of what they think Gideon has done. And Alicia ends up seeing Andre coming out of Nina's flat, and she ends up letting Gideon know. Now, at one point, Simon was like, "Well, we need to tell the other three. We need to tell Wanda. We need to tell Alicia. We need to tell Gus." And Nina was like, no, they're just, they don't even know what they really want to do. We should tell them once we actually have more concrete information, which is kind of true. But because Alicia doesn't know this, she calls Gideon, and now Gideon knows that now Gideon knows that Nina and Andre is at her apartment for whatever reason. He's probably going to figure out that, they're onto him. And so now Gideon knows what Nina is up to, and she lets all of the siblings know. They're all at the condo like, well, why didn't you tell us? You didn't trust us. Well, there's a lot of untrust between all of them for different reasons. It starts with their actual parents and the dynamic of how that all occurred. But a lot of people are untrustworthy, unfortunately. But either way, Andre ends up finding the proof that it is Gideon who stole the $20 million and 20 million pounds. Like you want to say $20 million, that Gideon has stolen the 20 million pounds, and so basically Nina and Andre, they go to this all white Peabody type, gentlemen's club, even though it has men and women, but basically the clientele seems to be all Caucasian, and they're the only two African Americans coming in there. But either way, they go to, Gideon's, all, elite, whatever club, and they basically let him know that they have this company, OEM Holdings, which stands for Oliver Ethan Martin, which is the name of the dead son of Gideon. And they say, OEM Holdings has been laundering money from Flair and Glory. And one thing that I thought was funny, though, is that the fact that he did this and he used his son's exact name. Like, if you're going to launder money, why would you have such a clear connection? But either way, I know it's like very cocky and arrogant. It's like, I'm going to steal the money. And yeah, they didn't know. Stephen couldn't figure it out. He was trying to figure it out. It's like that may have been what kind of, the stress of that may have been what killed him. But, to be that bold, I'm like, why would you use I mean, I guess it's like to stick it to Flair and Glory, but I just thought that wasn't like, I don't know. It's like, if you're going to be a criminal, it's like, be a mastermind criminal. But anyway, Nina's like, you have one offer only. All the money you stole, I want it back now. All 20 million pounds. And this is like a great scene inside of this, private club or whatever. She's like, Gideon's like, I worked for your father for 12 years and he just kicked me out, even though it seemed again that it was Claudia who was kind of behind that. Claudia, right. But whatever. I guess, again, at the end of the day, Stephen ultimately had, I guess, the final word, and maybe he just went with, they never showed that. So, I mean, I wish they did have more episodes, but they never. There's certain things they just didn't show. You're just told, and okay, fine, but like they didn't really show what happened. Maybe next season or whatever. But Nina's like, God, you gotta love a white savior. She said, go take your hurt feelings to therapy. She said, my family built that company and you stole from us. You unjustly enriched yourself at our expense, and now you're caught. Time's up. Time's up, ho. Basically. And, she's like, you either give us the money or you now give us the money, but whatever you do or don't decide will be, we gonna do what we gonna do. So you decide what you gonna do. So basically, you have the other family, Claudia, Wanda, Gus, Alicia, Simon, at the Flame Glory offices in the meeting room, looking at their account, their main Flame Glory account, to see is the money starting to come in. And basically the money starts coming in. Gideon starts sending in the cash amounts that he has available that he can easily send over. He will have to sell some property because he bought a lot of property with the OEM Holdings. So he has to sell that property, or I guess give over the deeds to Flair and Glory, and then they do it. But basically, some of the 20 million pounds he, I guess, put in investments. He bought property. So some of it's like, he has to like sell some stuff in order to get like the actual, the monetary value of it before he can just send it to them. Or give me the deeds, everything you own, just give me my money back, basically. Give me my money, ho. Right. Hey, Dirty, I got your money. Be better have my money, Rihanna. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Diddy, Puffy, whatever. Anyway, she's like, give us our money. So, you know. And then he asked Nina, are you, basically to not go to the authorities. And she's like, you know what, Gideon, my father spent the last 6 months of his life sick with cancer trying to figure out who stole the money. She said, and it killed him. It stressed him out. At least that's what she believes. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later. She believes that that's what's killed and stressed him out, which is true. That was part of it. So she's like, if you're uneasy without me telling you what I'm going to do or not going to do, don't worry about it. She said you should be uneasy. Basically, give me the rest of the money. Once you sell the assets, or sell the land, whatever, you're gonna give me the rest of that money. So no, Gideon, I will not let you have peace, if we go to the authorities or not, just give us back our money, ho. Give us back the money you stole. And then we end up seeing Nina in the car with Andre as they're driving away from the private hotel that they don't want black people at. But this is 2023, but it is London. So, right. So Nina thanks Andre for helping with Gideon, but she's like, if you do any other underhanded shit again, or like this again, like Ultimate, or trying to screw me over again, trying to get side investigations to come and blah, 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 I will destroy you. Shout out to I May Destroy You on HBO. That was a good show. But Nina's like, I will destroy you. And Andre like, I got it. And so we also find out later in this episode that he does get the new position of company director at Flair and Glory, And even though, you like, if you get this chance to get more money, get a better position, please don't screw it up. And hopefully whoever the new CFO is, they can find somebody that's not going to do something dirty like this. But either way, that gets fixed. And then now, so Nina and Andre, they get back to the offices. The family and Andre, they celebrate the victory of the stolen money, getting it back. Claudia says Nina and Simon are part of the family now. She says, I have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, with the champagne in the glass. Thank you to Nina and Andre. And though that she says, Nina and Simon are part of the family now, it's like they've already been part of the family. They already were. They were born before your kids were. And, again, she gives credit to Nina and Andre. So, she's doing a little bit of a 180 now because, they got that extra 2 million pounds back, and assumingly she can maybe spend some more money. It's like, stop spending money. Anyway. And then as this is happening, Mama Oyen shows up in London in the office. And she, Simon and Nina leave. They go into her office with Mama Oyen. And she basically lets them know. She says it was after 10 years of them being in America that Stephen started sending money through a cousin. And that he didn't want, and she said she didn't tell them because she didn't want to be like, your father doesn't want to see you, but he's going to send you money. So I didn't see the point in telling you that, other just than saying, the money's coming from a rich cousin or whatever. But I think, Stephen did use a cousin to set it up. Like, he didn't directly talk to Mama Oyen. He just made sure that, I guess, that they would get it through a subsidiary, that the funds were going to them. But either way, it was Cousin Delay, because Cousin Delay needed the money, or he needed money. And so from some of the money that Mama Oyen was receiving from Steven, she basically gave to Cousin Delay, and Delay gave her the shares in exchange for that. And, she said she voted with Claudia, so Nina would basically come back to America and leave London. But she's like, you're so much like your father, you know, and basically, Nina's like, I'm staying in London, and Simon is going back to New York, which is good. I mean, he'll always support her. He did come back. He was kind of going back and forth with some episodes, coming to support her when she really needed him. But And then also too, we see in this episode that Gus, he ends up liking Sasha, and he lets her know that he wants to know her and her daughter, and that he's serious about them. This isn't just like some kind of fling or one night stand; that he actually likes her. I thought this was a nice storyline for Gus. You know, outside of the trying to get revenge on the cops. I will say that sometimes they have it where, like, if you're like a single mother with kids, it's hard to find love. It isn't always the case. It does depend on the actual guy or girl or whatever. If they're willing to, if you really care about the person, you're not necessarily going to care that they have a child. You'll love said child too, or children or whatever, because you love said parent. So I thought that was a nice little storyline. um, because even if you are a single parent, you can still find love again for whatever reason. And again, so we go back to the storyline too in this episode of him trying to get revenge on the cops. And again, he did try to do it the right way, and that did fail. Gus, he does end up getting the private investigator to shed a light on the officer criminal dealings. But Sasha ends up getting caught up in the crossfire of the criminal. I think it was like sex trafficking or drug trafficking, that the police officer was working with this specific criminal. And either way, the criminal ends up finding out that Gus was the one who blew it up. That the private investigator reported it to a newspaper in London. So they all kind of end up, the cop, the drug dealer ends up becoming all on the news and in the papers. And then basically, um, they end up going back to Gus, but they end up, they're at a bar. They're at the bar that Sasha works at, or the nightclub. And when she goes to the bathroom, the cop or the criminal, I can't remember, it's either the cop or the criminal, because I kind of forgot what the cop looks like. But this guy's like, "You're basically going to help me get revenge on your boyfriend." And so now she's ended up caught up in this kind of, I guess, triangle of crap. And I remember, I thought when they had did this, when the private investigator was like, Gus, this cop is involved with this criminal, I thought that he should have kind of just ended it there. Because once you start talking about underworld and kind of criminals like that, they can all those are kind of the people you don't want to mess with, whether you have money or no money, some money, a little money. When you start dealing with like criminals like that, drug trafficking, sex, all those types of people, that's a very like dangerous game that he's playing, whether he got money or not. Maybe he can afford protection, but can Sasha? Can right? What about Sasha? So now Sasha's kind of caught up in this thing right now, and so we end up going now back to Gideon ends up going to play Claudia a visit at her home, and basically he lets her know that he knows that she has something to do with Steven's heart attack, and that he has proof. And then he's like, when the time is right, he's coming for her, basically. And now, do you all remember when Claudia was away at her other house? And that lady had brought those cookies, and Claudia was, working on plants and stuff, and working with these plants. And the lady was like, they call those the husband killer. You better wash your hands before eating a cookie of mine, or basically working with these plants and then putting your hands in your mouth. So there are plants, that can cause, heart attacks or strokes, or they can mess with your blood pressure and different things like that, natural herbs and whatnot. They kind of did that in Jenny in Georgia. They did that in the first season, when you had like the creepy husband that, that what's her name married, and then he was like rubbing his hands on her thighs, in Jenny and Georgia season one. So she ended up using a flower to end up giving him like a heart attack. So basically, so it's possible that Claudia did, use this so-called plant killer, put it in Steven's drink or something, for for him to end up having a heart attack. So it's not impossible. And the other question is, who is the father of Wanda? Because Claudia clearly feels a certain kind of way about that particular bomb and who the father is. I know at one point, whether she was talking to, I think it was when she was talking to Nina. Nina let her know about, these results that she found in Steven's belongings. Claudia was like, it was only one time. So it may be interesting whoever that man turns out to be. She seemed like she was really kind of uncomfortable, like just, yeah, like she just seemed like that threw her. She didn't seem like her normal kind of confident self. That kind of threw her off. So it would be interesting to see, because Wanda, I think, is the youngest. Yeah, Wanda, I believe Wanda is the youngest. So it can't be Andre. So it'll be interesting to see if we find out who the father of Wanda is, at least, the biological father of who Wanda is, because Stephen raised her as his own, and he was trying to find a way to adopt her, but maybe he waited too late, or by the time he found out that she was not his biological daughter, maybe it was just that she was too, she was maybe over the age of 18, if that's London, or the UK law and whatnot. But in this episode too, we also find out that Nina basically let Simon know, looking through her father's belongings from Zurich, that there may be a sixth child out there of Stephen. He still doesn't have as many kids as Nick Cannon, though, so I'm just saying. But clearly, Stephen was a Rolling Stone, and because in the will he was specific to my genetic makeup. But again, it seems like he's still considered Wanda his child. She didn't know that her mom was out there making other babies with other people, whatever, or that she didn't know that. I guess she knows now. And there's a point too, and then I think it was in episode either two, or it was the Face of Flare event, where Alicia's like, you guys need to grow up. What do you think Dad was doing at his, condo or his apartment in the city or whatever? He was out there hoeing too, He was out there creeping with TLC. Oh, oh. All right. Anyway, shout out to TLC. And also, too, in this last episode, Maureen puts in her resignation. She's like, it's been, those months have passed that I promised to stay here, and it's time for me to go. Here's my resignation. I think you have been acclimated enough with Flair and Glory and all the stuff going on. And then it turns out that she has a biracial son named Finn. Who the daddy be? Who the daddy, hop hole? Who the daddy? It's possible that it's Steven. Okay, so Steven's just about as messy as Andre, apparently. Either way, we don't, you meet Finn at literally near the very end of the episode. He is mixed, you can tell. Maybe it's not Steven, but since they made it a point to show him, it's possible that that is the sixth child with his genetic makeup. All right. And, those long late nights, meetings and, trying to keep the company afloat, maybe there was some champagnes and whatnot. Either way, I'm assuming we may find out later. And then my question is too, have Claudia or her children ever met Finn or know he exists? I would imagine that at the end, Steven, realize. I feel too that, at the end, and I think I said this maybe in the first episode review, that Stephen realized Oyen was the maybe like the true love of his life, and that's why he maybe left the majority of the shares to Nina and Simon. Oyen was there, for him from the beginning, coming up with some of the products that I guess she was cooking in the kitchen. That Nina had said earlier in the episodes too. The fact that, someone was stealing from the company, and Nina and Simon were kind of outsiders from that, outside of the company kind of structure. Probably factored in as well because, they were on the outside, outside of Wanda and Gideon and Gus and Alicia and Claudia and Andre. So, bringing the outsiders in to maybe to find the answer to where this money had gone was probably part of his decision. But at the end of the day, they were his kids too, and he, kind of disowned them to an extent. He didn't try to. You still had Zoom, you had, what did they used to have back in the day? Not Zoom. Oh, what did they used to call that? Skype. He could have Skyped, Skyped virtual visits. You could have had something set up, a computer, have mailed, had a computer, special kind of computer sent out where they could, message and talk to each other. Had them visit, to London, when school was in summertime for holidays. I mean, I guess maybe he was too embarrassed. Of course, Mama Oyen was like, hell no, I don't want you anywhere near those people. But I mean, I felt like maybe it's possible that they could have found a way, Maybe he was, pride and embarrassed that, that he had allowed these things to happen. And who knows if Claudia would have treated them any, better in her company, unless Mama Oyen came with him, who knows, but she had to work in the US and whatnot, but either way, it just kind of seems sad. But so far, Riches has not been renewed for season 2, and I hope it does get renewed. I have really enjoyed the season. I do hope that they kind of continue the story, maybe with more episodes. But I will say, I liked all the topics that were covered. I do feel some stories got very little screen time. But I will say that they did cover everything that they brought up. The storyline with Sasha and Gus and the cops, and Alicia being older, Alicia's dyslexia, something they kind of went over really. They mentioned it. They went over it really quickly as far as like Alicia's dyslexia, certain things that they kind of just they brought it up, and then they kind of just kind of let it go. But like all the big kind of character things, they kind of gave they gave a conclusion, a kind of finale to an extent. They didn't really leave too many unanswered questions. There was just things that they didn't show, like how I guess Gideon was there for 12 years. So was it within these 6 months that Andre took over? How long between Gideon being, let go versus Andre starting? Was it just that 6 month span? Was it more than that? These are just questions that I just kind of wanted to know the answer to. Some things they told you, but they didn't show you. And so sometimes with that, you have more questions. But either way, I do wish maybe they will get more episodes for season 2 if it's renewed. Overall, they did do a good job for the 6 episodes, and I think they used every second and minute to tell what they needed. I don't think that any episode was a waste. I feel like everything that was shown and covered added to the overall story and to the characters' development. I do wish some characters were developed more. The 3 kids, Nina, Simon, he had a lot of kids. There's a lot of characters. Some got more screen time than others. It, you know, But again, I do feel like all the stories were carried through to the last episode. There's some different cliffhangers with different characters too, kind of unanswered questions. Where will these things go in season 2, if there is one? It does seem like Nina got a little bit more understanding of her father, a little bit more, but not very much. But a lot of time passed, and she's kind of just left with some unresolved feelings. They had a couple episodes where she had like a flashback with him telling her like face your fears, get in the water and swim, and there was like another childhood memory she had of him. But it's like her memories are very scarce. Yeah, she had more time with him, and Simon didn't seem to have any time with Stephen at all. He has no memories of Stephen. He was just too young to remember anything. So Stephen did make an impression on Nina to an extent, and she has some memories to kind of boot, but I think she just has a lot of unresolved feelings, and they even kind of mentioned it too in like the last episode. I wish they kind of got more closure. I guess she kind of got a little bit more understanding, maybe through his, through to understanding of him a little bit more, and she did feel like she owed him something, to try to get the company turned around. He did seem to trust her in the end, and it seems like she was able to follow through. um I do wish there was more of Simon, but ultimately his life is in New York. But he was funny in a lot of the scenes that he was in. I like the character, I like the actor. Maybe they'll bring him more back in season two, depending on where the storyline and the plots go. Um, you know, um, but he does understand his sister, and they do support each other. And he kind of understands that this is what she wants to do, and her life is kind of there now. And now the other kind of Richard sibling, overall the siblings are supportive of each other. Again, so, though they don't always agree, I'm glad it wasn't too much like sibling undercutting and rivalry. Like, yeah, the disconnect was Nina and Simon kind of taking over, and them getting used to that kind of dynamic where all five of them are like together, and kind of pushing past that awkwardness and kind of building some kind of rapport with each other. So I think hopefully they'll become better close knit siblings. Maybe Simon can come visit whenever they get the surrogate and they have the baby. He can come visit Auntie and his other siblings in London, and maybe they can go visit them in the U.S. or whatever. I mean, maybe it'll maybe that sibling relationship will get better. um and they'll all be kind of close to each other. Now this new sibling, who may be Finn, Maureen's son, I mean Maureen's son, maybe he is the other sibling. So that may break up the shares, or controlling of shares, or how much money people get, or how much money people are entitled to, or whatever. Who knows? Hopefully that character, if it is Finn, hopefully is a decent person. But that could be a good storyline for the next season as well. But yeah, overall, I mean, I did like the show. I like the season. I do hope they do have a second season. I hope that too, maybe if the shows were like an hour long versus like the 45 minute. I mean, it's like an average. It's like basically what a lot of them were like 45, 44 minutes without the commercials. Maybe just give them a good full hour of show of story, because some things they could have showed a little bit more, with just certain people, like show a little bit more of Gus and Sasha, how that relationship really kind of built certain things, showing just certain things they could have showed a little bit more of. I would have liked to have seen. But other than that, I did like the show overall. It took me forever to give this review, because I'm like, I'm gonna do all of Riches, and this was like back in 2000. I mean, this was back in December of 2022, but I did it. I gave it to you guys, breaking it up a little bit. But either way, let me know what you think. Did you like this review? Hit the like button. Hit the like button on the other video if you liked it. Any comments below? What did you think overall of the season? The first video is almost at 1,000 views. Maybe it'll get there. Who knows? Maybe it won't. Whatever. But either way, yeah, I did like the show. I hope they do continue the story. I think the actors are good. I do like the character Nina. I think for her character, because she's like kind of the main character, I guess I would like to kind of see her walls break down as a character, show more like emotion, and not be so. I mean, she's strong, but like maybe so she can like find some happiness. Maybe it's with Rishi, maybe it's not with Rishi, but like something outside of the whole work dynamic. Have her have like a good relationship, some positive relationship. Right now, she just kind of just she uses men for when she needs to, for like a stress relief or like a one night stand. But maybe she can find a decent guy or whatever, and find like a good relationship, and maybe she can have her own family. And she seems like she needs like happiness in her life. It doesn't necessarily have to come from a man, but just like outside of the whole working thing, like something outside of that, so she can get some peace and just kind of just move on, and then just be happy out there, and not be so overridden with all this like crap of what's going on at Flair and Glory. She can find her like own kind of happiness out there, however that is. But yeah, I would like to see more for her character in that sense. But again, other than that, I did like it. Press the like button if you like this. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and comment if you have any comments below. Other than that, next time I will see you. Bye for now.